right, it's 6 o'clock. Should we get started? Okay. All right, welcome everybody. We are so pleased tonight to be able to offer this opportunity to our students and parents about more information for high school students who are thinking about playing sports competitively in college. We are very fortunate tonight and every day to have a great working relationship with the Claremont colleges. And tonight, Erica Jasper, who is Director of Athletics, Physical Education, Recreation, and a George Roberts Fellow at Claremont Mudd Scripps to be our host tonight, who has put together a panelist of 5 coaches in different divisions, in different locations, different size colleges, to share information about what students want to know in high school about playing sports in college: eligibility, what the conditioning looks like, the eligibility process, the recruiting process, what it's like to be a student athlete, and the opportunities that student athletes have to grow as student athletes in college. So without any further ado, I will turn this over to Ms. Jasper and her panelists that she has assembled. There is a Q&A option and that we will be monitoring to assist with questions that people have. So we're so glad you're here tonight, and we are recording this for future reference as well. So thank you again. And again, thank you so much, Erica Jasper.
Thanks, Paula, and thanks for having all of us. I'm super excited tonight. We've got an all-star cast of college coach panelists who you will hear mostly from them. I'm going to try to do a great job asking some interesting questions to get the conversation rolling. But as Paula said, we'd love to see questions in the chat, and I will kind of monitor that throughout and start to sprinkle in questions as well from all of you as we work through. I feel pretty fortunate. I get to be the director of athletics at CMS as my day job. I like to tell people that, I was a junior tennis player growing up and went to Washington State University on a tennis scholarship to play tennis there. And I liked being a student athlete so much that I never left. Went into college coaching, and now I'm an athletic director and get to work with coaches and student athletes on the daily. I really believe that there is an opportunity out there for almost every student athlete who is driven and wants to put the work in to be a college athlete. Sometimes you just have to be a little bit more willing to look, and hopefully today our amazing panelists will shine some light on the different opportunities that are out there and just give you a little more information on the different divisions, and hopefully put a face with those divisions and also those experiences. So I will let our panelists introduce themselves. Mike, I'm going to kick it to you first to get us going.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Erica. Good to see everyone. Welcome tonight. I'm Mike Haswell. I'm the head coach at Cal State East Bay. On the men's soccer side, we're a Division II program. I just took over the job this July and had my first season with the program. Previously, I was with Cal State Los Angeles in Division II as well. On the men's soccer side, we had a lot of success with national championship and some runs to the national finals. I also coached high school soccer in East LA. Was a student athlete at Penn State. I played lacrosse there for a couple of years, and then I was a soccer player growing up through high school and lacrosse as well. So happy to be here tonight. Look forward to answering your questions and hopefully get into some good stuff.
And before we move to our next one, quick fire piece of advice, your best favorite piece of advice for prospective student athletes and their families.
Got it. Should I take that one, Erica? Or
yeah, go for it. I'll let everyone share that one. Yep.
Yeah. I think my best advice is to really try to work to gauge and get a gauge on where we'll have a bunch of levels here on the call tonight. So Division I through sort of Division III. And I think there's a range of playing opportunities for everyone, but I think really getting an idea and trying to gauge what level maybe you're best suited for. So talking to your coaches, your club coaches, or coaches that you work with in the high school level, people that you care about, people that you know, that you respect their opinions, and try to get a gauge of what level maybe do they think is right for you, and also where your teammates going on to play at. Where's folks that you know going on to play, sort of what level are they going on to play at? Because I think that's a big piece to really start to get you on your path to figure out all right, which level should I gauge for? What makes maybe is most realistic, and then what schools from there you can start to decide, all right, what schools do I want to go after, and start emailing coaches and reaching out to see and to tell them, hey, I'm interested, I want to come to your school. So, but I think really getting that idea from the people that you care about and respect and look up to get an idea of what maybe is the right level for you.
Awesome. Great advice, Mike. Chanel, why don't you go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chanel Murchison. I'm the head women's basketball coach here at Claremont Mud Script, so right around the corner from most of you. And I also, my boss is here, so I will be on my P's and Q's. I played basketball at William and Mary, Division I institution out in Williamsburg, Virginia. Was very fortunate in that endeavor. And I've been coaching at the Division III level for most of my career, started as a graduate assistant, went back to my alma mater for 2 seasons, and then now here at Claremont Mud Scripts. Claremont Mud Scripts is a Division III institution, so mostly operating through the academic funnel when it comes to scholarships and things of that nature, nothing athletically based. And I would say my best piece of advice or favorite piece of advice for prospective student athletes and their families is I think a lot of times as youth athletes preparing to play college basketball, we set the goal at that point. I want to be a college athlete. And I think it's important that you think about what kind of college athlete and what you want your college athletics experience to look like in terms of goals in that space, so that you're not stagnated at, I'd made it, I did what that goal was, and then I get there, and then these expectations are being put on me from my coaches and my team when I hadn't really thought past the becoming a college athlete.
That's great advice. Thanks, Chanel. Grant?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Grant Chen. I'm from California. Fun fact, I actually lived very close to CMS and Claremont for a little bit. I was technically in Ontario, but it was just down the road. So I know the area very well. Did my undergraduate study at UCLA. I did not play college athletics. So I think I took a very unique pathway to get to where I am. I started as a student manager. I just wanted to be a part of the program and help out the team. And then became operations, assistant coach, associate head coach. And 20-something years later, here we are. It's been exciting. I'm a California kid at heart, and actually still go back to Los Angeles and other parts in the town to see family. So really special to me. And I think my biggest piece of advice, you guys are already doing it by being on this Zoom call and being able to find and ask questions. You guys all have huge dreams and aspirations. So go do your homework. Go on campus. Go watch a team play. I highly encourage you to go watch Chanel and the women's basketball team compete on campus or on the road or any school who travels around. Go see them. I think it's important to visualize what you guys are striving for. And if you want to be college athletes, then go out there and find and see what those experiences are like: practice, training, competition, in classroom. But excited to be here and with these other coaches, and looking forward to a lot of questions.
Thanks, Grant. And that's an awesome piece of advice, especially being here in Claremont and LA County, where you can literally watch any sport at any division within 10 to 15 miles of your house, which is pretty rare. So excellent advice there. Chris, last but certainly not least.
Hey there, I'm Chris Ramirez. I coach Division III athletics. I coach the cross country program, men's and women's, track and field, men's and women's, and also brand new women's triathlon program over at Warren Wilson College in right outside of Asheville, North Carolina. It's a beautiful mountain place without the crazy elevation. So it's been awesome for me and my family to move here. I will say that so I started my collegiate experience as a student athlete at UCLA as well, Grant. I don't know who was there early, before. I don't know. You look very young, so I'm saying it was me. I was there running track and cross country. I made a conscious decision to transfer to a smaller school, closer to your area over in Claremont, in Azusa, California, called Azusa Pacific. I ran there for a couple of years, had the awesome opportunity to be an All-American and really feel that pull of the small schools feel. It was an NAIA school at the time, and now it's Division II. Loved my time at Azusa Pacific. As a student athlete, I actually left athletics altogether and went into the entertainment industry, performed for Disney, and then worked as a Walt Disney Imagineer, designing new shows and stuff for the parks. Loved that part of my life, and then all of a sudden I found myself coaching high school cross country and track and field again over at Claremont High School, which I just fell in love with coaching. Have been doing that now for the last 6 years. Coached at Claremont High School as the head cross country coach. Started as assistant, was head cross country coach soon after, and also leading the distance program in track and field. And basically got recruited by Glenn Stewart, who is the head track coach. And he introduced me to Marina Munkin, incredible Olympian at Claremont Mud Scripps. Loved them both and worked well with both of them. And then got the opportunity to move out here and be a head coach of a track, cross country, and women's triathlon program. So I love all of that. Let's see, what else do I need to answer? I also, best piece of advice. Gosh, I'm just gonna piggyback on everyone else. I love going last. But seriously, the opportunity to get out there and find where the best fit for you is, because I am one to admit that you will not find success if you are not happy where you are. And it is best for you to find out what that particular place may be, whether it's a large school, a smaller school, somewhere that is more academically focused. If you are happy where you are, it is easier to find your place in athletics as well, because everything kind of just falls into place. So get out there, do those visits, do your homework, do your research, and reach out to coaches. Don't wait for them to call you. Reach out to those coaches.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And that's great advice. And I will piggyback and add a small piece of advice that's actually not my own. It's one that my dad gave me when I was 17 years old, and I was trying to decide between going to the University of Washington, where they wanted me to walk on, whereas Washington State University had offered me a scholarship. And my dad told me, go where you're wanted. And sometimes I think that's a really great piece of advice in the recruiting process. We get stuck aspiring and reaching for things with maybe not the same reciprocated interest. And so I would just encourage folks, as they're going through the process, if there is a school that really wants you academically or athletically, maybe give them a little more time than you are at first. You may surprise yourself with that experience. I know it worked out for me. As we're transitioning to our next question, as our panelists shared, they have a lot of experience across a lot of different divisions and are now coaching at different divisions. So maybe Chris, we'll start with you, since you've had a journey being a student athlete at a Division I and an NAIA school, and then you've kind of found your coaching niche in Division III, and you've been at two very different Division III athletic departments. What are some things that are special about your division? And also maybe provide some insight to the range of programs within your division and within your sport with respect to level of play, academics, and even resources.
This is such a great question, and I wish I had sat in on a panel of coaches like this when I was looking for colleges. So first of all, Division III, as Chanel mentioned a little bit earlier, is primarily academically focused, but that does not mean that academic, yes, I said that right. Academically focused, but that does not mean that athletics will take a back seat in your life. It will still be a priority. And your commitments are your commitments. The kind of message that I like to start the seasons with my athletes is, number one, I'm not going to force you to run. I'm not going to beg you to run, because If you're running, well, that's a hard thing to do. And I just don't want to beg anyone to run. It's not worth your time or mine. So you really do have to love what you're going to do in college. With Division III, I feel like it is a very balanced atmosphere between athletics and academics. Um, like I said, I started at a Division I institution. I loved it. I loved being there. I loved my coach. And, he's still a very, a great mentor to me nowadays. But I will say that when I found my place in a smaller institution and could focus a little bit more on my studies like I wanted to originally, I was very swayed in high school by the prestige, by that kind of thing. And I think about it now and I don't, you know, I think it would have been better for me to sit in on a panel like this and hear coaches like we have here, their perspective. What's incredible about my specific institution is that we're actually a work program and there aren't very many of us left in this country, but you coupled with your academics and athletics, you also get to experience a job on campus, which works down your room and board expenses. So really, when I talk about the balanced lifestyle and the way that that is to you in high school and how it appeals to you, you really just have to think of what will be your priorities in college. I think that a lot of student athletes go into college thinking that they will be a superstar one day, and that is true for a lot of people. But if you are looking for a place to really just excel as a student, to really dive into your studies, but also to have athletics support that journey for you, then Division III is a great place, might be a great place for you. And I would encourage you to check it out.
Chanel, anything you want to add? Chris hit it out of the park, but any nuggets to share on Division III?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of go into the space of the range of programs that exist. Most Division III schools are going to be private institutions, but there are and smaller in stature, and a lot operate in the liberal arts realm. With that, each school is going to have a different type of kind of, as Chris mentioned, his school has a work function embedded in the curriculum in order to help with expenses. Some schools are going to have a predetermined sliding scale when it comes to the amount of financial aid that you might receive, or a scholarship. So the merit-based scholarships that you would receive on the academic side, you're going to see that sliding range. And then some schools, it's going to be a little more nuanced in how they provide those scholarships. CMS being one of those places where you're going to see that there's merit scholarships available, but really applying is the only way that you kind of will navigate through the financial aid portion. Whereas, like I said, some schools, you go to the website, it has a breakdown of you did this, you did A, B, C, so you get this. So as you're navigating through that process of making a decision as a family, especially, I always talk to my prospects that the Division III model, given that the academic scholarship and the financial aid are such an important piece, is a full family decision. And so often talking with parents and prospects in that process, but there is a range of what can be accomplished at the Division III level. So I don't want to, no one should lose hope when it comes to the financial piece when exploring Division III as an athletic option.
Thanks, Chanel. That was great. Mike, I'll kick it to you next.
Yeah, so we're Division II. Division II, to summarize some things with us, we have essentially all the same things as Division I programs, but less resources in general. So we'll have all the facilities, athletic trainers, generally maybe a few less sports programs, but we have, for example, at East Bay, everything from men's basketball, women's volleyball, men's and women's golf, swimming, men's and women's soccer. We don't have a football program, but sort of everything else we have covered. Some of the big differences for us, you have scholarships offered at Division II as well as Division I. We're typically maybe one scholarship less. Like for men's soccer, we're at 9 scholarships, and for Division I, it's 9.9 or 10 scholarships. And then the other piece that's a little bit different as well for Division II is your eligibility is different. So your eligibility clock is different. So Division I, your clock starts basically once you've graduated high school, and then you get a gap year if you want to take it, and then your eligibility clock has begun. For us in Division II, that clock doesn't start until you enroll full-time at a school, so junior college or university, and then your clock begins. So we'll have actually older athletes competing with us. So for example, we had an international player from Germany who was doing some time off in gap years and came to us and was 22 as a freshman and is physically, sort of emotionally, mentally a little bit more developed and mature. That's not the case for all of our athletes, but there are some like that in some of those cases. And I think that's one of the biggest differences, I would say. Otherwise, the other thing I think is Division I and II competitively are very similar. So a lot of Division II teams will compete with and beat a lot of Division I teams. In fact, I think some of the top D2s will beat a majority of maybe mid-tier D1s when you get to the top D1s, maybe not as much, but I think there's a competitive advantage or competitive maybe equality between the two that people don't assume or think. I think most perception is Division I is will blow Division II out of the water, but that's not the case. And that kind of, that's sort of all the things that come to mind when I think about the big differences.
Thanks, Mike. And Grant, your experience has been at 2 very different Division I schools, but talk a little bit about Division I and the range and some of the differences you see.
Mike did a great job showing a lot of the similarities and differences at UCLA, where I coached for many years. Public school, very large population, certainly a much different experience where you are. And then certainly now I'm at SMU in Dallas, Texas, private school. Our population for undergrad is just under 6,000. So a very different type of school. And I think that's the key I would like to share with all you guys is no matter what level you're looking or what conference or what league, Division I, II, or III, NAIA, or junior college, there's something out there for everybody. And I think that's really important to remember. Division I might have more quote unquote higher profile, such as the Michigans and the Texases and the USCs and, Florida. But I think it's really important to be able to understand what you're looking for. And the reason why I didn't play college tennis was because I actually didn't know and understand and all the different options I had. It was a little bit ignorant. But I think that's where you guys can really do your homeworks. Every school's got information online, web pages, athletics, Instagram, everything. So get out there and make sure you do what you're supposed to do. But even at the Division I scale, there's certainly a lot of guidelines and restrictions and parameters. And it's up to you guys to determine what it is you're really looking for. Even the Ivy Leagues, these are Division I, but they don't have athletic scholarship. So in Division I, oftentimes it's based on athletic scholarship, academic scholarship, financial aid, and family contribution. So those are kind of the 4 pillars that you can really try to work with to figure out what makes the most sense. And some schools have opportunities where you can combine financial opportunities, and then some of them you might not. So again, I think it's so important to be able to understand what you're looking for and explore everything out there.
That's great, Grant. And we'll transition to our next question, which we have a question in the chat that is, I think we'll address in this in terms of timeline. But Chanel, if we can start with you and talk a little bit about the timeline for your recruiting process. Kind of when do you start recruiting a majority of your student athletes? And kind of how does a student athlete know they are really being recruited? We get a lot of questions like that. Are you writing them? Are they writing you? Walk us through a little bit of that.
Sure. I think one thing to note is that every sport's going to be a little bit different. And then also that would be one of the differences from a divisional standpoint of when and how a coach may be able to even contact or connect with you. Division I probably has the most stringent rules, and then it changes as it goes down divisionally and across. Also, not even thinking just NCAA, NAIA, the JUCO system, they're all going to have a different rules around when and how coaches can connect with you. I believe though Division I and Division II are quite similar. But as far as basketball goes, typically, by the time you get to high school is when that kind of recruiting process becomes really a big deal. And then going into the summer after your junior year is when you're really going to be in that like true recruiting phase in terms of like really connecting with coaches, et cetera. I know at the Division I level, for example, basketball's first date of contact for juniors is September 1. So when I was coaching at that level, it was like, August 31st, we've got a plan of all the kids that we're calling on September 1. And if you know those kind of markers for each division of when the contact begins to happen, coming from coaches to prospects, that'll give you a good idea of, where you are in someone's recruiting priority. But also you want to utilize your coaches, whether that's your club coaches, whether that's your high school coaches, to kind of help with the outreach. I think the question in the chat box asked about when do coaches come to games, and most of the time it's through some sort of communication that says you need to come see this kid and see how they perform, and then making and then evaluating kind of that time cost analysis in terms of what are our needs as a coach or as a program, and does that off the rip, does this kid have those things, and then making the time to go and see the performance live. I know for like some Division III schools, it's another thing to think about is whether a school has rolling admissions or hard application deadlines, and that also can give you an idea of where you stand in their recruiting process. CMS, for example, have hard application deadlines, so we're going to start our outreach pretty much that second semester of your junior year, right as that last cycle is closing out at the beginning of January for our previous class. We're going to be hopping on our next class in that January phase so that we can start building relationships, making sure people are taking the courses that they should be, et cetera. Whereas some people who have rolling admissions might still be working through their senior or their next class, their incoming fall class, in May or through the summer. So really figuring out the schools that you're interested in, what are their deadlines? And before I get plenty of emails in like May that says, I'm so interested in CMS. Claremont McKenna is my top choice. Are you recruiting anymore? Or will I be a good fit? And I'm like, couldn't have been your top choice because you didn't know when the application or deadlines are. But also I understand that there is that, information gap of like making sure that you're, like Grant said earlier, do your homework. You're going to be at that institution for more than just athletics. And so understanding no matter what division you go, you still have to apply to school. So it is important to do your homework and recognize when those deadlines are, especially if you're doing the outreach to a school that may not have found you yet, and also can operate in that space.
Cool. And that was great, Coach Murchison. And I'll piggyback off that because in a similar question in the chat, we had a question, will colleges be lenient about admissions requirements if I'm a very strong athlete? Can I be admitted if I have any admission deficiencies? Generally speaking, with that second question, can I be admitted if I have any admission deficiencies? As most of us know, that answer is a hard no from most admissions offices. Now, with respect to lenient about admissions requirements, I think if you went to any admissions officer at any of our institutions, they would also say the answer is no. However, there are institutions that value your commitment and excellence in athletics as a skill that you've honed throughout your high school experience, much like if you were a wonderful musician and played the violin, much like if you were into acting or singing. There are a lot of institutions that view that as a skill, and that might help augment your academic record, the classes you've taken, and all of those things. But I think Coach Murchison said it best in that the academic piece and that fit is very, very important. And I do think sometimes there's a lot of myths in all of college recruiting, because we see the top of Division I men's basketball, football, obviously with the admission scandal a few years ago. I think there's a lot of myths about the standards for student athletes, but I think the experience of most of our coaches here is the standard is exceptionally high, and you better be awesome at school. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about your kind of recruiting timeline in the soccer space and also Division II?
Yeah, sure. I think for us, we're similar to Division I as far as when we can start talking to athletes, which is June 15th of going into your junior year. So that's summer before your junior year. So if you reach out to coaches at the D2, D1 level, you can reach out to us earlier than that, but you're not going to get much back as far as content or conversation. But once that deadline hits, then we can have conversations with you. For us at Division II, we won't really recruit. We'll spend time and we'll have those conversations. We'll build the relationships with younger student athletes who are in their junior year. And for sure, we'll try to sort of watch them and come see them and build a relationship. But the most of our work is happening for our 2024 graduates, or the ones that are graduating this year, our seniors this year. They have maybe gone on and said, a lot of them, for us, we're pursuing student athletes that are maybe at that D1, D2 level, right? So they've gone after the D1 dream potentially, and it hasn't worked out. Or we've identified them and we feel like they could be a really good fit with us. I would say too, to the answer to there was an anonymous question from water polo and equestrian, that what do I do? Do I reach out to coaches? And I'll say, yes, reach out to coaches for sure. I think that's such a huge and important thing, because we have tens of thousands of athletes literally to see. We'll go to events, we'll go to showcases and things, and there's so many athletes to see, and we can go pursue 5% of them, but it's going to be a waste of time for us if they don't want to come to our school and university. So for them to reach out to us takes initiative, shows they want to be with us and be at our school. And now we can focus our energy and effort to look at those student athletes. So I think for you to reach out to the schools you're interested in is so important. And yeah, we're recruiting for the fall of 2024. My situation is a little different as I just came into the job. So we're a little bit getting caught up in building and rebuilding a program that's not historically been great, but we're working to build it up. So we're still recruiting for fall 2024. I think that'll still be the case for Division II. That's always been the case. We're recruiting generally until spring or summer even of the coming fall. And we can have some late admissions for us at the different universities, the Cal States, for example. But generally, I would say fall and into the winter and spring is going to be the majority of our recruiting window for that next fall. So for student athletes looking for fall 2024, that's a good timeline for us.
Thanks, Mike. And Grant, I know the tennis world has gotten further and further ahead in the recruitment process, but share a little bit about what that looks like at SMU and also kind of bigger picture, maybe in Division I tennis.
There are 43 people on this call. All of you grab a pen, your paper, and write this down. All coaches run camps. Go to them. Enroll in summer camp. Go to their showcase, ID camp, whatever they call it. It is the greatest way to get to know a collegiate coach. You're on campus, you enroll like everybody else, and you actually get one-on-one. You get to have a conversation. They get to know you. You get to be on the soccer field, the pool, whatever it is. It is surefire one of the best ways to connect with a college coach. It shows that you're interested, you're there, you're taking the time to get to know them. 35% of my team attended one of my tennis camps in the last 15 years. So you want an easy way and a really unique way to get access, it's through camps. Thank
And
you.
Grant?
Conversation over.
Grant, also, you didn't add this part. There's probably 50 to 100 kids who you helped find other institutions to play college tennis at. Am I right?
That is very true. You really get to know them. And once you get to know them, you can actually help guide them and put them in connections with other coaches, other programs around the country. And that's something all the coaches know each other. It's a very small little group. And same thing with you guys. You guys all know each other as well. So sometimes if it doesn't work out with myself and they realize that, they want to go somewhere else, I can help put them in contact. But great point.
Thanks. And Chris, anything to add to all these words of wisdom?
So many words of wisdom. I'm just going to piggyback off of Coach Chen over there and say that just speak to the fact that, yes, coaches know each other. We're starting a women's triathlon program here, and I would not be able to do it without Division I coach Sunny from Queen's University, who is kind of the spearhead of that NCAA emerging women's program there. He has given me so many insights. I've bought equipment from him that they're no longer using. And because, they have the budget to move on and move forward, they've literally used helmets one time. And I can buy them from them for a fraction of the price. So yes, if you are an athlete and you are, you've reached out to a Division III coach, or a Division III coach has talked to you, or a Division II coach, whatever it is, but this Division III coach, cannot give you an athletic scholarship, and that's really what you're looking for. Those Division III coaches know those Division I, Division II coaches. So please, attend their camps, attend what they're doing. We are doing a Nike camp starting next summer because it's very new for me. But for triathlon, and you better believe that so many of those athletes are going to end up at other schools, and I'll be able to help them with that. So yeah, I'll say that. In terms of timeline for just to speak specifically in the running sports, and so distance runners, especially cross country and track and field, it's kind of a year-round recruiting process, just because you're kind of recruiting both for track and field and cross country simultaneously. So that doesn't really end. But honestly, there are so many track and field and cross country athletes in this country. I will say this again, I know I said it earlier, it is best for you to reach out, to find the place where you feel that you fit, and reach out to those coaches, because those coaches are looking for those hand me opportunities. Just give me the opportunities. I promise you that will go really far with a coach. And whatever your ability there, we talked about range before, but even there's a giant range between something like Warren Wilson, which is a new athletics community, and CMS, which is very established and winning national championships and being up there. There is a place for you. So really reach out and look for those opportunities. What's that?
Thanks, Chris. Talk a little bit about academics and athletics, and we touched on it a little bit in the introduction, but a little bit, what are you looking for academically and athletically in a prospective student athlete, so folks can see the sampling of kind of institutions and range here, but then also share what that looks like in your division. So Chanel, I'll have you go first, because I think you and Chris can actually really demonstrate a pretty wide range in Division III, which he just talked about.
Excuse me. Like I said, you guys are mostly nearby, so I imagine you have some sense of the Claremont colleges in terms of prestige and also in academic prowess. In that, I think one of the questions talked about, like, what if I have academic deficiencies? And again, while we're going to seek out athletes and student athletes with robust experience and that have a breadth of experience across their resume, academics is going to be the key to whatever comes after the admissions process or through the admissions process from a recruiting standpoint. And so, you know, really what we're going to be looking for is that you've taken advantage of whatever the highest curriculum that you can at the institution that you're at or at your current school. So if your school's offering AP courses or any higher level courses outside of the standard, our institutions are going to be looking for that. Excuse my dogs, apparently someone's walking by and they don't like anybody or love everybody. I don't know. But they're going to be looking for that you've explored that highly rigorous course load in that. And coupled with I did well in those courses also. And that's going to be kind of the baseline for how we move forward, like I said, in the recruiting process. I always kind of lean in the safe side and say 3.8 plus is a good starting point for our schools in particular. And then we can look at, again, the transcript and kind of see how that fits in to the big picture of it is a competitive admissions process. And so how does that fit in the big picture of the applicant pool as a whole? Currently, Claremont McKenna and Scripps are test optional. Scripps will always be test optional. And then Harvey Mudd is still taking your test scores, whether that's the SAT or the ACT. So highly suggested that you do well on those as well. And then math and your core curriculum are going to be some of the highlighted points of emphasis when it comes to the courses that you're taking in your high school. So yeah, for us, it's they want to see, just as you're an elite athlete, again, the student part comes first, and they want to see that you're an elite student as well, exploring a rigorous curriculum that will prepare you for what you'll endure here as a student athlete.
And Chris, want to share a little bit of the academic side?
Sure, we would be on the complete opposite side in many ways, just because we're a very enrollment-driven institution. So we're not, I think there is a minimum of a 2.5 that you have to meet in order, for your high school GPA in order for you. We're definitely test optional. And I would say that we are looking for strong academics, but what our institution is really focusing on and putting itself out into the world these days in the issues of really climate studies and environmental studies, biology and unique ecosystems, those kinds of things. And so I would say, and then also on the artistic side, creative writing and music. But I will say that we are really looking to drive enrollment and create an all-inclusive atmosphere here for higher learning. Maybe you've had a bigger problem being super successful in high school. And so that is the range that exists in Division III. We're very academically focused, but perhaps in alternative ways, things that aren't specifically looked at in terms of what the world or society would call success. And then I guess to mirror that athletically, I was brought here to start 2 brand new programs and to continue a program in cross country, which really existed more like a club team on campus. And now I am really pushing to be more competitive, and really commitment is our driving culture here. So I just to kind of give a little bit of a range as to what Chanel offered. Division III is wide for you, and there is a place for everyone, just to reiterate that.
And I would agree, and there really is every possible academic focus, athletic focus, and every level of both in between in Division III, which does make it pretty special in that sense. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about Division II and kind of the academics that you're looking at as well as athletically?
Yeah, sure. We have some sort of baseline minimum stuff you have to meet for the NCAA eligibility. So if you meet that, typically for us at least at Cal State's, you can then get accepted. So your baseline is for Division II is a 2.2 GPA, and then you have to hit all 16 of your core classes, which is your maths, your English, social sciences. There's a list of those classes. You can find them very easily if you just search it. That's your NCAA eligibility. It's similar for Grant as well. He'll touch on this, but the GPA is a little higher. Some of the core classes are a little bit differently. But if you're hitting those, that's you have to do that. If you haven't done that, you cannot come and play for us unless you go to junior college. That would be your other option. So then you could, if you're not a qualifier, it's called NCAA qualifier. If you've not hit those minimums, then now you can go to junior college for a year or 2 years. You could go for a year and transfer to Division II, or if you want to go Division I, you have to go for 2 years and finish your associates. So past that, there's your minimums. Then basically, if you meet those, we can then work with you to get you in. So Nikki's question on if I'm a strong athlete, yeah, and if you hit those minimums, yeah, which are doable. But we also work with a very wide range of student athletes at the Cal States, and so I would say that's sort of the baseline. But then what we push for our guys is really once they're in with us, we want them to be successful. So we want them to get their degrees. We want them to be great in life as they graduate from us. We want to send them into the world as men and young men that are ready to be successful and to thrive, really. So our business degrees are great. Our biology and health science degrees are top. Kinesiology is a good program. We have a lot of good programs. And then we put a focus on the academic side for our student athletes. So we're checking in with them on academics. We're connecting them to tutors, to support. We have an academic counselor that works with our student athletes to help them get classes, to help resource them. And we put a big focus on that. So we're really successful on that with our team GPA. We're at a 3.5 basically this last semester. We're striving for that again. So yeah, maybe it's a little bit easier to get in for us to the university. You hit those NCAA qualifier requirements, you get in, but then we're going to push you to be great and do well on the academic side. And you got to balance it, but we'll help you do that as well. I think most coaches will, and they want you to succeed. So I think that's a good summary for us.
That's great, Mike. And I think you did a nice job hitting that home in terms of it's not just the grades you need to get in, but actually most coaches that I know across every division and across sports have really high expectations of their teams academically for the most part. Grant, anything you'd like to add and share about Division I?
A lot of similars. Obviously, yes, the NCAA qualifier is a huge baseline, and I think it's important to try to familiarize yourself with it. The NCAA Eligibility Center, which Mike touched upon, something you guys would all have to do. You can just Google it and go online and fill out, but it allows anyone who wants to be a student athlete to submit some of their school transcripts, test scores, and basic information like email address, and it gives you a eligibility number. It's like your ID number. So something really useful to be able to go to. But I think ultimately, you guys remember that you guys are going to be student athletes, and the student comes first. So you got to be able to balance that and find a place that you can be successful. The NCAAs and the Division I, there are a lot of different guidelines that you need to meet. But I think ultimately you got to figure out what you want to study, where you want to study, and the type of education you want to receive.
Thanks, Grant. We have a good question from the chat, and I think this one comes up a lot, and I will try not to get on my youth sports soapbox in terms of affordability and inclusivity, but we had a question in the chat about how important it is to participate on a club team to be recruited. And obviously we have a couple team sport coaches in Mike and Chanel that deal a lot with club sports. So I'll let them both answer that.
Me first, I guess. Um, I do think it's an important facet. I don't necessarily, it's not a end all be all in it. Like Erica mentioned, it is obviously an expense and an added expense. And if you take advantage of what Coach Chen was talking about in the sense of camps and such, that's, could be one less expense. I do think it is important. Why I think club is important is oftentimes you're going to be able to compete against a vast group of individuals. And so it gives you an opportunity to play against different styles, under different coaches. And it could potentially expose you to coaches outside of your general area. And so it is a great opportunity to kind of expand your recruitment and also potentially have a really strong impact on like the type of player you become. But I'm not to say that high school can't be that as well, depending on where you play. I think it's really important that if you are unable to play club, really communicating with your high school coach so that he or she can help you navigate the recruiting process without the club portion. I've recruited players who didn't play club because their high school coaches were very much in their corner, or maybe they played for a smaller club program that didn't do as much national playing. And so they might not have been in the spaces that I was in, but that communication with your high school coach to let them know what your aspirations are really can maybe alleviate that. I often at our institutions, because we're high academic, we do see athletes that use their summer to expand their academic resume, in terms of different taking classes in the summer or SAT prep and ACT prep courses and prioritizing, family travel. And the D3 experience is about balance, and the summer is yours in that way. So I think it is an important, it is an okay way to navigate. But again, the communication process with your high school coach becomes really, really, or any type of coach that you have in your space becomes really important in terms of the networking piece, so that your film or stats or whatever is getting in front of eyes of coaches.
Mike, and I'll let you jump in a second, but I think one thing I will add in there that Chanel scratched the surface, but there's a lot of clubs out there that I think sell a dream of facilitating the recruiting process. And absolutely, there are club coaches who are well connected and can help you have the conversations with the right place that are the right fit. And that's excellent. I would be wary, parents and student athletes, about a club team that guarantees any kind of recruitment, because at the end of the day, you can't really do that, right? At the end of the day, I would be very concerned about that. I would say encouraging folks to be on a club team that challenges you and is part of your journey getting better. All these coaches here and every coach that I know, they want to see students who are hungry and improving and increasing their level. And I've never seen a high level player not succeed at this level because they didn't play on the right club team when they were 15. So Mike, I'll kick it to you, but I wanted to get that in there.
Yeah, so good. I'm pretty passionate about this too. I think it's exciting to be able to see kids come through other systems and environments than the club environment and be successful. So for sure on the soccer side, it's an avenue. It gets you more exposure in general. It gets you, there's, I would say in general, maybe better coaching. The highest levels of youth soccer are going to be on the club side, but I've been fortunate to recruit and be a part of developing players that have come through and never played club soccer and have gone on to be All-Americans and pros. And so I think there's, like Erica said, it's a great point. There's a lot of club programs that are really part of their pitch is to, hey, we'll get you on to college. And I think the numbers, honestly, for the soccer side are very small for Division I athletes coming through that are actually going to sign D1 scholarships or roster spots is 1 to 2% is the numbers we were looking at a couple of days ago with another college panel. And so, right, it's hard. There's not a lot of D1, D2 athletes out there, and D3 as well. So D3 maybe more so because there's more schools doing it, but So I think that's the one thing Erica said, to be wary of that. There's avenues to get to the next level without playing club sports, but it does give you the most exposure. You're probably getting access to the best coaches, but you got to pay for it too. So that's, I think, maybe the pros and cons you got to weigh out. But I think you can find great fits. And like Chanel mentioned, if you can get good coaches at your high school, there's some great high school coaches out there. There's some great coaches doing work with nonprofits that are really top, that care about the community. If you can get it with those environments and those programs, you can be successful, you can develop, and you can get to the next level.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Since we have a lot of parents on the Zoom, I hope a lot of the parents' names that I see have their student athletes hopefully sitting with them. But what are the best ways that parents can support their student athlete through the recruiting process? And conversely, what are some things that parents should not do? Grant Chen, go for it.
Parents, you guys are a huge part of the process, but it's about them. So be a tremendous support, but make sure that they're driving the bus and that they're making the initial contact and the dialogue and the phone calls and the appointments and the emails. If I get a parent to email me saying my son is interested, I'm probably passing right away. So just be mindful, and it really is a family and group effort, but they've got to be driving the bus.
Love it. Chris, you did some simultaneous work where you were a high school coach and a college coach at the same time. I feel like you had a lot of parent interaction. What do you have to share?
Yeah, so that was an interesting dichotomy because I worked for this incredible institution at CMS and that first year of assistant coaching, we were second place in women's cross country national championship for Division III by 2 points. And then at the same time, I had some of those star high school runners that I had looking at other schools, and I'm like, no. But really utilize, parents, encourage your children to talk to their high school coaches about college and look to their high school coaches to make those connections and to help them make those connections. And in my case, it was kind of cool to be able to steer them in a direction. Being a Division III coach at the time, steer them in a direction where I feel like they were best suited. I had some student athletes who were very suited for the Division I level and got money to go to a Division I school, and others brought right up to CMS because they were or to Claremont McKenna. One of our students' parents on this call, you might remember Angie Gushu or Jimmy Boyle, who are now running for CMS, and students at Claremont McKenna and Harvey Mudd. So, talk to your high school coaches. Number one thing that parents can actually do, take your kids to visit. Take your student athletes to visit those colleges that they want to see. Because when they step on that campus, when they meet that coach, when they get to run with the team or whatever it is that is in store for them that day on their recruiting visit, that's going to make or break their decision. It's really going to help them. So number one thing you can do is take them. And number one thing you can do to ruin their experience is to force them. I mean, just don't force any decisions upon them. Don't hold them to your standards. Hold them to their standards. Find out what their standards are for college and hold them to those.
Thanks, Chris. Mike, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think just reinforcing Grant. I thought Grant and Chris hit it really well. Empower them and let them drive the bus and take them on visits. That happened for me as a student athlete, and it was. I think at times some parents had to drag me a little bit. I'm like, I don't want to go. We get, road trip with my parents. I'm 16, 17, but I think doing that, I think it was, when I look back on it, it was a big benefit. I got to see a lot of campuses, and like Chris mentioned, I got to really get a feel for what I liked and what I was excited about.
Chanel, anything you want to add?
Yes, I would like to first second what Coach Chen said about having your athlete be the one that makes the outreach. And if you are, I also understand that most of the time our prospects are 15, 16 years old. And so if you feel more comfortable being a part of those conversations, just be upfront about it. Don't like mask the conversation like as your child, because we can tell that too. But just be upfront that I really, right now I want to be a part of the communication, and I think that's okay. But having them do the initial outreach is really important to show us that it's their interest and not yours. And then I would say also from a Division III perspective, when we're talking about the financial portion, be honest with your daughter or son about what is affordable for the family too. Or if they're going to have to take on something on their own in order to, get to where they want to go from an academic standpoint. I've seen it a few times where we might be recruiting a student athlete and it seems like mom and dad are very on board with, what might come in terms of a price point. And then it comes and not so much. And I hate to see student athletes very upset because they thought that this was going to be a possibility for them, and it turns out that it didn't work out in that way. And so being really honest, and that's why I said earlier in this call that Division III can sometimes be very much a family decision depending on the where you are looking in terms of that. And the other divisions as well, when you talk about I think, Coach Mike said they have 9 scholarships. A soccer team holds more than 9 teams. So there is potentially an opportunity that you might not get as much money as you set out to. And so making sure you're being really as transparent as you can be with your son or daughter about, what is feasible as a family too. Yeah, I think those are my...
Yeah, and I think, Chanel, what you bring up is super important. I saw Mike nodding and Grant as well, because there aren't that many sports actually in Division I that are head count. Chanel, you and I were spoiled in that we both played them. So we had full scholarships, but that's really the exception, not the rule. And I think that's probably a myth out there a little bit about Division I and even Division II is most of your scholarship athletes are on a partial scholarship, and there could be academic money, there could be a work study job, there could be other grants coming from other avenues to help pay. And I do think that honest family conversation about the cost of college is an unfortunate reality, but one that I would also highly encourage, just given the cost of higher education today. I told Paula that I would be very good with time, and it looks like we are at 7:02. So we do have one more question in the chat that is kind of an interesting one that I'll go ahead and answer if you're okay with that, Paula.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We had someone in the chat ask if there's any information that you can give us on flag football since it is new to CIF. And while the NCAA has not marked flag football officially as an emerging sport for women, if I was a betting person, and I'm not, but I would suspect that it may become one sooner rather than later. There's a number of NAIA schools who have picked it up as a sport. I know from the Division III space. So we have 9 schools in Division III in Southern California. And because it is a high school sport here in Southern California, as well as in Arizona and Nevada, it is of high interest in this area. So I would say if your daughter is really interested in flag football, I think it's an awesome opportunity, much like what Chris is experiencing with starting a triathlon team. I think you're going to see colleges, more and more colleges possibly starting flag football as we see more high schools starting it. So that's about all I can answer in that space, but I do think it's a new, exciting sport, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw more of it at the high school and college level as we move forward. I don't know if you've seen any of it on the East Coast yet, Chris, but emerging sports are kind of exciting overall.
Yeah, we're actually hosting 2 emerging sports, women's rugby and women's triathlon at Warren Wilson College. So I haven't seen flag football yet, but I was at Claremont High School recently when they announced that we were starting a flag football program. So I think that's really cool.
All right. Well, big, huge thanks for our coach panelists tonight. They were fantastic and awesome. And I appreciate all of you and your friendship. And you gave some amazing advice. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Paula, I'll hand the floor back to you. But thanks everyone for taking the time to learn a little bit more about college athletics and the recruiting process.
Thank you so much. Panelists were excellent. We're so very grateful to have this opportunity to share this with families. Just a quick reminder, reference was made to the 16 core courses to be eligible for Division I and Division II. And I just want to remind students and parents who are listening that counselors do ask that question every time we go through the registration season. We do want to know if you're an athlete so that we can make sure that you hit those targets as needed for Division I and Division II. And always, of course, the emphasis placed today by all of our panelists about keeping your academics rigorous, increasing your options as being a scholar, student, athlete. It is a combination. But if you haven't told your counselor something about your interest in being active in sports in college, it's not too late. So students, please know that you can communicate that with your counselors, but that is a component of every registration counseling session at Claremont High School. So again, thank you again so very much, and very grateful for all of you. I appreciate it. And thank you, and good evening and good night, everybody.